Good morning. Tuesday, March 31st, 2020. While you get your notebooks ready to take notes, if some of you have your notebooks ready, do a little crisscross because today is really different. it's a little complicated, so pay close attention. Okay, so today's section is chapter 9, 5, and we're going to call this multiplication with addition and subtraction method, and this is for solving systems of equations. So you've learned that solving a system of equations is finding the ordered pair that makes both equations true, and it's written in alphabetical order x, y. It's an ordered pair. And as you know, when you solved the systems by graphing, sometimes there was no solution, or sometimes there was an infinite number of solutions. That will happen with the elimination methods as well, but just know that if we were doing the adding and subtracting, and we got 6 equals 6, then there would be an infinite number of solutions. But right now, we'll just do that with, you'll only find infinite and no solutions with graphing method. Okay, so the three methods that we've learned so far: graphing, substitution, adding and subtracting. And adding and subtracting involves substitution when you get to the second step. Okay, so today, multiplication with add or subtract. So we're going to do one problem reviewing the addition and subtraction. Okay, we're going to solve the system 4a minus 7b equals 13, and 2a minus 7b equals 3. Now, as you can see, the negative 7b and the negative 7b are the same, so we should subtract the second equation from the first equation. And we get 2a equals 10 because 4a minus 2a is 2a. Negative 7b minus negative 7b gives us 0b, which is 0. 13 minus 3 equals 10. Now, easily solving for a, divide both sides by 2, and we get a is 5. Give you a minute to write that down. Now, as you know, with both substitution and with addition and subtraction, we take that a equals 5 and we substitute it in either equation and solve for b. I usually choose the first one or the one that looks the easiest. It doesn't really matter. So I decided to take 4a minus 7b equals 13 and substitute. A is 5, so 4 times 5 minus 7b equals 13. And we get 20 minus 7b equals 13. And we have to add 20. Oh, sorry, not add. Subtract 20 from both sides. And we get negative 7b. 13 minus 20 is negative 7. Divide both sides by negative 7. And you get b is 1 because negative divided by negative is a positive. All right, so the solution is 5, 1. That's our a and that's our b. Now, when you go back and substitute 5, 1 into both original equations, you'll find that it checks. Okay, now that's just review of addition and subtraction. So it's kind of shark time, so pay attention. It's definitely shark time. All right, now we've got a system of equations where the first one is x plus 2y equals 6, and the second one is minus 2x plus 4y equals 28. Notice that there's not any matching coefficients. The x has a coefficient of 1. This x term has a coefficient of negative 2. This one, the y term, has a coefficient of 2. In the second equation, the y term has a coefficient of 4. If only this were 2x or negative 2x, or that were 4y. Now you know that as long as you do the same things to both sides of an equation, the equation remains equivalent. So we look at these two equations and we say, what could we do legally to make it so that we can add and subtract them? Okay, so if both sides of the first equation are multiplied by 2, the x terms would have opposite coefficients. Okay, let's see what happens. All right, so if we take the first equation, x plus 2y equals 6. And if we could multiply both sides by 2, we would get 2x. So that becomes 2x, and then we do 2 times 2y. So that's plus 4y. Okay, equals 2 times 6, which is 12. Okay, so now we have an equivalent equation for our first equation. And 2x is the opposite of minus 2x, so I think we're going to be able to add now. Okay, the second equation, I'm not going to do anything to. I don't do anything to it, I just rewrite it. So the first equation, both sides are multiplied by 2, we get 2x plus 4y equals 12. Second equation, we just rewrite it. Okay, now we can add the two equations because these two are the opposite. So if we add 2x plus negative 2x, you get 0x, which is 0. If you do 4y plus 4y, you get 8y. And you do 12 plus 28, and you get 40. Solving for y, divide both sides by 8. We get y is 5. Okay. So now we know what the y term is. Now we need to solve for x. Now we're back to either just like the substitution method. So we're going to substitute y equals 5 in either equation, but it has to be one of the original equations. So we have to go back. We have to go back to either this equation or that equation. Either one, it doesn't matter. But I usually choose the first one just because it's easier to do. Okay, so here's our first equation. X plus 2y equals 6. Remember, that's our original. We substitute y is 5. X plus 2 times 5 equals 6. Okay, we're almost there. X plus 10 equals 6, and subtract 10 from both sides. We get x is negative 4. Okay, so now I've got an x and I have a y. So I write the solution, negative 4, 5. Now, we should double check both. We should check it in both original. Now, you can either write it out or you can, in your mind, do it. Okay, so let's go back up here. X is negative 4 and 5 is y. So is negative 4 plus 2 times 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Negative 4 plus 10 is 6. 6 equals 6, so it works in the first one. Okay, let's try the second equation. So we're going to do the same negative 4, 5. Negative 2 times negative 4 is 8. That's positive, okay? Oops, plus 4 times 5 is 20. 8 plus 20 is 28. It checks. Cool. Okay, I'm going to give you a minute to make sure you have that all written down. And later on, after this video is over, before you do the assignment, you should try to do this problem on your own again and see if you can do it. And you need to really, all the little side notes that I put in green, you need to talk to yourself about that and teach yourself and make sure you know those steps. And it'll make sense the more you practice. I'm doing a little crisscross while I'm waiting. Okay. Okay, here's our second problem today. Second multiplication problem. Okay, we're going to solve the system. 2x plus y equals 8, and 3x minus 2y equals 5. Okay, take a look and see what we could do to add or subtract the equations. It's looking like 2 again. It looks like if we do something up here with 2, if we can make that 2y. So now legally, remember, we have to do the same things to both sides. So we're going to multiply both sides of the first equation by 2. So write this down. Multiply both sides of the first equation by 2 to make the y terms opposites. Okay, let me move this over. Okay, so you're going to multiply both sides of the first equation by 2 because that will make the y terms opposite. Now we leave the second equation as it is. Okay, so let me show you how that happens. Okay, here's our first equation. 2x plus y equals 8. We're going to multiply both sides by 2. This equation becomes 2 times 2x, 4x, plus 2y equals 16. Okay, now we're going to leave the second equation as it is. So I just rewrite it exactly like it is. Oh, and by the way, down the road, there'll be problems where the x and the y terms are not lined up. You want to make sure you rearrange and make sure that they're all lined up, and that will make the adding and subtracting much easier. Okay, so we are going to add these two equations because it's positive 2y and minus 2y, and we're going to solve for x. So if we add this, we get 4x plus 3x is 7x, 2y plus negative 2y is 0y, 16 plus 5 is 21. So easy peasy, divide both sides by 7, and we get x is 3. Okay, now, we take this x is 3 and substitute it in either equation. But it has to be the original, one of the original equations. Okay, I'm going to choose the first one again. And we get 2x plus y equals 8. Take that x is 3 and substitute it for the x here. So now it's 2 times 3 plus y equals 8. 6 plus y equals 8. Easy peasy. I'll give you a minute to make sure you got that all written down. Now we're going to subtract 6 from both sides. We get y is 2. So we have a solution to this system, 3, 2. And we do need to go back and double check in both equations. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 2 is 8. That checks. 3 times 3 is 9. Minus 2 times 2 is 4. 9 minus 4 is 5. It checks. Very cool. Okay, so that was, I think, maybe Mother Shark, Teenage Shark. Daddy Shark is coming. Daddy Shark is coming. Okay. Definitely need a little crisscross on this. Crisscross, crisscross. Okay, deep breath. All right. I look at these two equations. Here's the first one, here's the second one. And there's no x coefficient that is the same. These two, and there's no y. So what could we do? What could we do to get either the x or the y coefficients the same? Well, if you take a look at, well, let's see, to enable you to add or subtract the equations. Okay, there's no way we can do it right now, but to enable you to add or subtract the equations, you need to make either the x terms or y terms have the same coefficients. So it's sort of like LCD in a way. It's sort of like LCD in a way. It's that kind of thinking. I'm going to look at the 4x and the 3x, and if this was, I could multiply this by 3 to get 12x and this by 4 to get 12x. So I think that's a good plan. The y's would be harder just because it's such big numbers, but we'd have to do 30. So anyway, we'll take the x terms. The easiest way to work with this in the system are the x terms. The easiest to work with in this system are the x terms because of the 4x and the 3x. Okay, so we're going to multiply both sides of the first equation by 3. Okay, we're going to multiply both sides of the first equation by 3. Okay, so let's try that. All right, here's the first equation. 4x plus 15y equals 10. If you multiply this whole equation by 3, we get 3 times 4x is 12x, plus 3 times 15y is 45y. And don't forget to do 3 times the other side of the equal sign. 3 times 10 is 30. So I've multiplied both sides of the first equation by 3. Okay, now we've got 12x here. If we look at the second equation, we see we could multiply both sides by 4 of the second equation. Okay, so that would give us 4 times 3x is 12x. 4 times 10y is 40y. Don't forget, 4 times 5 is 20. Okay, so now we have transformed both equations into equivalent equations, but now they have the same x terms, the same coefficients. Okay, so we can now we're going to take the first equation and subtract the second equation from it. So now if we have 12x minus 12x, and we get 0x. 45y minus 40y equals 30 minus 10, so 5y equals 10, easy peasy. Y is 2. Okay, so So we subtracted and solved for y. Okay, we've got our y. All we need now is our x. All we need now is our x. Okay, so to find our x, we're going to substitute y equals 2 in one of the equations. Y equals 2 in one of the equations. And solve for x. So we're going to substitute y equals 2 in one of the equations, one of the original equations, and solve for x. Okay, so I'm going to take the first equation, 4x plus 15y equals 10. And what did we find y was? We found out that y is 2. So I'm going to substitute y is 2 here. All right. 4x plus 15 times 2 equals 10. Almost there. 4x plus 30 equals 10. Okay, subtract 30 from both sides. We get 4x equals negative 20 because 10 minus 30 is negative 20. Divide both sides by 4. X is negative 5. Okay, so it seems like, or actually, we've found an x and we found a y. So negative 5, 2 is our solution. And you should check that in both original equations. Do that on your own. Okay, I know this is hard, and I highly suggest doing the do the problems that I did with you today, that I gave you notes on. Try them on your own. Okay, so our assignment is, okay, in your textbook, you're going to take good notes on page 430, examples 1 and 2. If you try those on your own without looking at their solution, you can see if you get the right answer. Now, they have, of course, step by step. So if you could do those, you're teaching yourself well. If you have to do them a couple of times, that's okay. Just keep trying. So what you're going to do today is, in your textbook, you're going to do just 4 problems because I want you to spend a lot of time teaching yourself. And so you're going to do page 432, number 11, 13, 15, and 17. And in classwork, select mark as done. Okay, now, as we've been doing, I'm going to have you take a picture of a couple of problems. And it really helps if you put your name on the page where you take the pictures. It helps me because I'm going back and forth between Google Classroom and emails and all kinds of stuff. So your name really helps me. So submit pictures of number 11 and number 15. So submit pictures of your work for number 11 and 15. Now, yesterday some of you said that it was easy, and I'm just going to let you know that if you want to challenge, if and only if you want to challenge, take notes on example 3 on page 431, and then try some of the problems like that. That is definitely challenging. Okay, I miss you, and I hope this helps. Please message me if you don't understand. I can post solutions to some of the problems. I can hopefully answer any question that you have. Take care, and I miss you very, very much.